without further ado, with lots of prayers, thoughts, and guidance, I have decided that I will be declaring and entering the 2020 NFL Draft.
All right, here's the deal. Tua Tagovailoa at one point was considered a sure bet #1 overall pick, but after dealing with a myriad of injuries, specifically his hip, it appears his stock might have fallen a bit, and then all the talk became centered around Joe Burrow out of LSU. But this video has surfaced of Tua working out, throwing, looking healthy, and looking good. So on that note, we bring in our quarterback, Dan Orlovsky. Hi, Dan.
What's going on?
Max, I'll start with you on this one. Do you think the Bengals should consider picking Tua #1 overall and passing on Joe Burrow?
You have to consider Tua. It'd be negligent not to consider Tua because so much of this stuff from our point of view, from fans' point of view, is based on perception and how we the sense of where people are rising and falling. But the experts, the people who are actually going to have to make this pick, have to be much more sober in their analysis. Tua's issue is this: durability, period. That's it. That's the only issue. His arm strength isn't like A++, but it's good enough. He is a special player with a much deeper resume than Joe Burrow. And a little bit younger, but a much deeper resume. Burrow's heights, the highest heights he achieved were greater than Tua's because of the season he just had, capped by the final game he just had. So that's amazing for Joe Burrow, but it's a thinner resume than Tua's, who's shown in a big sample size he is a special passer. He is he has speed to extend plays, but he's a pocket passer, the kind who throughout history has been very successful in the NFL. He's compared to Drew Brees a lot for good reason. And on top of all that, the kind of sense you get of a guy, right? And sometimes that causes some guys to be overrated, like Mark Sanchez, for example. But that sense you get that this guy's a winner. Tua has all that stuff. I mean, all those kind of special qualities that you just feel as a leader, and when the chips are down on the field, he has. But then he's also so accurate. Look at the records he set, and look where he set them. Completion percentage, touchdowns thrown, the whole thing. He is such a special player. Many teams were talking about, or at least fans were talking about their team wanting to tank for Tua 2 years in advance, and now because of a durability issue, he's off your board. Yeah, he couldn't be picked #1. Nonsense. You have to consider Tua very carefully.
No, you don't. You don't have to consider him if you're the Cincinnati Bengals. That's #1. #2, I don't know what extensive experience you're talking about Tua has compared to Joe Burrow, because Joe Burrow played 28 games over the last 2 years and Tua's played 24. #3, take into account that Tua was a backup at Alabama, came into the national championship game in the second half and saved them against Georgia and ultimately won the national championship. He comes back, they lose to Clemson, and then obviously last year he gets injured against Mississippi State. We understand that. We also understand he completed 71% of his passes, but Joe Burrow completed 76% of his passes. Joe Burrow, by the way, threw 60 touchdowns last year. Let's not forget that, en route to winning the national championship, en route to winning the Heisman Trophy. I'm not telling you that Tua is not a bad brother. Tua is special, and if he were 100% healthy, I would be all for him. But that hip injury scares the living hell out of me, and that's not the first time he has been injured. You couple that with the fact that Joe Burrow is an Ohio native, and he is somebody that the locals have gravitated to, particularly in the aftermath of that Heisman speech. You combine all of that with what he brings to the table and is proven he brings to the table as a football player. And because we're talking about Cincinnati, meaning Cincinnati, Ohio, the Bengals organization, who should be thankful, who should be on their knees thanking the good Lord every day that somebody is remotely interested in cheering for their moribund behinds. The bottom line is, when you take all of that into consideration, you've got to go with Joe Burrow. If this is Miami, that's an entirely different conversation because Tua's worth that risk. But with so much on the side that you have to consider, if you're the Cincinnati Bengals with an Ohio native like Joe Burrow and what he brings to the table at this particular juncture, I don't think it's hard at all for the Cincinnati Bengals to say, we're not even going to consider Tua. Joe Burrow's our guy.
Yeah, I mean, could the Bengals Could they consider Tua? Sure. Should they consider Tua? No. This is an easy pick for the Cincinnati Bengals. Max, everything that you said about Tua glowingly is correct. But I could literally take that and put it exactly under Joe Burrow's name. I want to kind of take apart the narrative of 2018 Joe Burrow, because everyone will say, like, yeah, he had a great 2019, but what was he or where was he in 2018? A couple things that we all need to understand when it comes to Joe Burrow of 2018. One, he transferred to LSU late from Ohio State. He had to transfer late because of the transfer rules. He got there after the freshmen got there at LSU. So that's part of the 2018 story. Second of all, he had not played football in 3 years, and that's when he won the starting job. It had been 3 years since he had been the quarterback, or starting quarterback. And then the third thing was, if you watch the beginning of 2018 season with LSU, they were still running their old scheme, which was 7 guys blocking and protection, 1 guy playing quarterback makes 8, and then there's only 3 receivers in the pass concept. And as a defense, you're dropping 6 or 7 guys in coverage. No quarterback is going to play well. And then halfway through the season, they really shifted to the offense that we saw them run in 2019, which was a bunch more receivers out there, spread out, and allowed Joe Burrow to dissect the field. And you saw him play really, really good at the back end of 2018, and obviously have his season in 2019. So, like, it's not, we are all kind of prisoners to looking at Tua through the prism of that national championship game when he comes in and plays and has that miraculous moment, and then that sophomore season that was absolutely remarkable. Listen, Tua's a remarkable player, and Joe Burrow is as remarkable, but the Bengals have the first pick, and it's such an easy pick that Joe Burrow, to me, has the chance to be the next Steve Young type of player, and that's how easy of a pick this should be for Cincinnati. Take Joe Burrow and be thankful that you happen to have the first pick and that special player.
That I like you taking apart the narrative of Joe Burrow, because you're right. When you look at it closely, Dwayne Haskins takes the job at Ohio State. Then he goes to LSU. He's ascending. And then Joe Brady gets there and everything explodes, although Joe Brady's with the Panthers now. And you're right. He could be the next Steve Young. And that would be great. It would make him a Hall of Famer. And I'm not knocking Joe Burrow at all, by the way. I'm just talking about Tua. Tua might be, is compared to Drew Brees. You could argue who's better, Drew Brees or Steve Young. I think Steve Young was my favorite to watch as a kid. But Drew Brees probably had the better overall career. It's debatable, but I think you could easily argue that. The point is, you're talking about 2 excellent quarterback prospects. And I'm not arguing for sure take Tua 1, but should they consider, oh no, it's just a slam dunk, it's Joe Burrow? People are just sleeping on Tua right now, and I get, by the way, a little bit the way they're sleeping on Cam. I get how an injury kind of tarnishes a guy's the way you think about a guy, and maybe Tua will have durability issues. He's only 6'1", and he can move, though he's not like taking crazy chances down the field with his legs or running downfield with his legs usually. Tua, by the way, and I understand why you say the thing about Burrow. Burrow had his job taken and then left, and so Tua took someone's job who then left, and so the feeling is Tua was ascending while Joe Burrow maybe wasn't. I'm not even talking about that sense. I think where people's guts are, the sense of the guys actually is underrating Tua. It's not a knock against Burrow.
Nobody's underrating Tua. The only question about Tua is his health. Nobody has watched Tua and has underrated him in any way from a skill perspective. Everybody with 2 eyes sees what Tua brings to the table as a talent. He's an elite passer. He's a national champion. He's a winner. We've all seen it. The question is, if durability is such a question on a collegiate level, whether or not that's going to be the same issue on the pro level, because in all likelihood, it is. And that's the reality of the situation. There's nothing else about Tua the question other than his durability, which is why he said, when he was talking about the scouting combine, when he got interviewed months ago, he said, my objective and my goal is to win the CAT scan and the MRI. Other people are going to win the 40 and all of that stuff. I'm trying to win the CAT scan.
You guys
and
sure
the
that
MRI.
Burrow's a better pro than Tua? Are you guys sure Burrow's going to have a better career than Tua? That's really what the teams are asking.
I'm not sure.
That's what the teams are asking.
He has more durability. That's not
Here's
true.
what I do know. The
They
top
asked
5
about Tua's
winningest
health.
active quarterbacks, only one, Big Ben, played one game as a rookie. So we've talked about Tua potentially sitting a year or two. If he did end up with the Bengals, at least he could sit behind Andy Dalton. They do have a franchise quarterback there. Dan sticking around here with us. We have more quarterback talk coming up. So after Tom Brady leaves, the greatest coach in football, the most decorated quarterback, is headed to Tampa. What does he need to prove? We dive into that after this quick break.